the clouds. It
Yeah.
was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous drive, for sure.
That's kind of nice if you have a pretty drive in the morning where
It
it can be
is.
kind of like a relaxing.
It was
Until I
beautiful.
hit the sun. Then all of a sudden it was, oh, where's my sunglasses?
It was really bright, but it was lovely.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Good morning. I'm Carol Dixon. I'm with the Idaho Federation of Families, and welcome to our December webinar. Today we are going to be talking about family support services, and we have two certified family support partners who are joining us to kind of discuss the whole process of how do you become a certified family support partner and what the services are and how families benefit from the service. It's been about 2 years or so since the state began offering this to families. So it's relatively new. It's definitely a growing program, and there's a great need for more people to kind of jump in and become family support partners. So part of what we hope this morning is that as we discuss it, there are some parents out there that go, oh, this is really interesting. I think this is something I can do. Or also say, oh, this is something I could really use in my own home, and then be able to call their local provider and find out who's offering the service and how they can possibly find a family support partner in their area. So to introduce who we have Cherie LaRue. She has been working with family services for the past 10 years. Just in July, she completed the training and her certification to become a certified family support partner. We also have Jill Edmondson, who was in one of our very first trainings back about a year and a half ago, I believe. So she has kind of been one of the older ones in the state of Idaho that's been providing family support partners. So she has some really good experiences. She's been seeing this grow. So with that, I'm going to let you all just kind of share. And again, we're covering two topics in terms of what does it look like for the families and what does it look like for someone who wants to become a family support partner. So Cherie, anything else that you would like to add?
Well, I have 3 children at home currently. One that has some mental health challenges, and another one that is on the autism spectrum with some cognitive delays, and then another one that is considered twice exceptional, which means that they have gifted and talented abilities and also mental health and behavioral diagnoses.
I raised 4 children. They're all adults now, and 2 of my children have major depressive disorders.
So we're coming from a background of in-depth personal lived experience with our kids. We come from a background of passion for this field, for the service, and yeah. So do we want to get started with the PowerPoint?
Sure. What I also want to add is if there are questions along the way, there's kind of a chat box. You can add those questions and they'll be brought out to us so that we can answer those probably more towards the end of the presentation, but please definitely share any questions you have so we can get those answered. Okay. So that we're going to start, it's going to be kind of a discussion based on the PowerPoint presentation, so you're going to see both. And I think we are ready to go.
Okay. Is the PowerPoint going online?
I would just go ahead and start talking.
Okay. So Certified Family Support Partners, a growing resource for Idaho families. This has been involved, like Carol said, for a couple years now, but it is definitely going to be more in demand. There are going to be there's a growing need for more qualified family support partners. So what is a family support partner? A family support partner, or a certified family support partner, is a parent or adult caregiver who through lived experience and specialized training has an understanding of another parent's situation due to the shared challenges of raising a child with a mental health diagnosis. They understand a process of caregiving a child with these difficulties is a unique parenting experience best shared with someone who successfully navigated the various systems of care. So this is definitely effective for supporting the family as a whole because of our experience that we have had with our own children.
So one of the things, like my impression that makes it most effective is that you've walked the walk.
Yes.
And that you understand the challenges.
Yes.
And how do parents relate differently to you, knowing that you have been in their shoes, than sometimes to professionals who have a lot of information, are very skilled, but don't come from the same background.
So to be able to have that communication with somebody that understands, like has had that experience, that knows what you've been through, can speak on it from first person accounts, is hugely impactful. It's relatable, it's real. This is real life, and parenting is hard in itself. And then you put in all the different dynamics of having behavioral health, mental health challenges, maybe substance use disorders involved with that. And it gets really complicated and it can be very confusing. So to have an experience with somebody that understands where you are and they have had success for themselves, it gives hope. It's hopeful, it's empowering. People can have a renewed sense of belief that change is possible, that there is hope in the horizon, that their families can be healthy, that their children can grow up and lead meaningful lives. Do you want to add anything?
Well, you absolutely hit it, especially with hope. That is the biggest piece.
So is it different because a lot of times when you're going in and you're working with therapists and doctors, is you don't hear, you don't know their personal story. So are you all sharing kind of parts of your life and parts of your experience? Are you allowed to kind of cross that boundary?
Yes, absolutely. So that is something that clinical therapists cannot usually disclose a lot of their personal experiences. Their standards and their service prevent them from doing so. But for us, that's actually a strong foundation of why this is effective. So there's evidence in our story, and there's evidence in the systems that we've navigated and how we've been able to advocate and be successful. So that creates such an empowering opportunity for the families that we work with.
Okay, big difference.
Yes, there's a huge difference. So let's move on to what is the focus? Services of the family support partner include teaching family members how to navigate the various systems of care and develop self-advocacy, role model behaviors and skills needed for resiliency and coping, as well as helping families to utilize their strengths. So sometimes families don't know what their strengths are, and that can be really difficult for people to even understand when they're so in depth and they're really discouraged. How does that work? Services also teach caregivers and children about the causes of disorders, understanding how it impacts their lives, and about using evidence-based intervention. So family support is an evidence-based intervention. The training and the outcomes are all evidence-based. They have been recorded over a long time. That's why the services is so effective.
So what does evidence-based mean? Why would that be important to someone who's looking at the service?
Do you want to answer that?
Evidence-based is like a proven track record that this actually does work. And
Right. The majority of outcomes are positive. They're measurable. And it's evidence in that families have huge changes, and it's sustainable, where they're not, this is a short-term service, but there's long-term gain that is evidence.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? So family support partners are not a clinical role. Family support services are not a standalone service, and they are intended to complement the member's behavioral health treatment and or other services being provided, and may be delivered while the member is in treatment or before the start of treatment. So family support could actually start before a kiddo and the family go into therapy to help get them connected, create a plan so that they have clear, concrete steps that they can use to achieve their goals that they set forth for themselves. It's all directed by the members, by the family, the caregivers for the kiddo. So who qualifies for family support services? A child underneath the age of 18 with a behavioral health diagnosis or co-occurring mental health and substance use disorder who qualifies for Medicaid. Right now, this is a Medicaid-only service. So with this, there is also going to be a growing need for more family support partners. As the YES is being implemented, the Youth Empowerment Services is going to be a different standard of care. It's going to be a different system. That more children are going to be able to qualify for these services.
So, as a child qualifies for services, but is it just the child that's receiving the services? Because I hear you talking about family, and the name is a family support partner.
The family as a whole.
The family as a whole.
You look at every part of the family. If it's a mother and father, a single parent, sometimes the children are residing with foster parents, grandparents, but you're working with the child, the parents, and any siblings in the home, anyone that resides in the home.
Okay. And so you're talking about siblings getting involved. Do you find that they're typically willing? How does the family kind of respond to this idea of all of a sudden, because one member has a mental health diagnosis, that as a whole group now they're having to kind of come to the table?
The siblings love to be involved because a lot of times the siblings left out in other types of services because before it was just individual centered rather than family centered, and they like being a part of.
So they have
the
some
solution.
say in
They have
changes that are being
Yes,
made
they
or
do.
being able to address issues, things that are bothering them.
Yeah, when
Okay.
I walk into a home, I speak to every member of the family. I try to meet with them all at the same time, but then spend some one-on-one time with each one
Right.
just to get their perspective and what.
So then how does that different than kind of those clinical counseling services? What's that line that a family support partner does versus what a therapist does? And I think that's kind of a hard question.
Yes, it is. The clinical therapist will address what's going on with just the individual, and it's not taking into account what's going on within the whole family. Are their basic needs being met? Are there issues at school? They're just touching on just the mental illness or behavioral health issue, and that is all.
Okay. So they're not doing any therapy. The family support partners
No.
don't do
No,
therapy.
No, we
No.
are not a clinical role. This is a supportive service to that clinical piece. So we are actively assisting family members to get into the resources in their community and build their support system. The therapist in the clinical role, that's one piece of their support system. So there are some disparities with how people can access services, and we help bridge that gap.
Okay.
Yes.
So I kind of envision it like a pie, and all the different slices, and they're very distinct in terms of what they do. So you have your therapist, you might be occupational therapist, you might have CBRS and family support services.
Right.
So it's an important part of the pie.
It is definitely important. It can foster a lot of advocacy for the families too, where they might not be able to know what's going on with this piece over here, connecting this piece to talk to this other piece over here. That's an important piece. It's just bridging that gap, like I said, and communicating. Collaborative efforts is definitely our role. Helping them understand the various systems as well. Like that is the foundation too for family support.
Well,
Understanding how to go through the processes, what your kiddo needs, understanding what those diagnoses are, what challenges are, and all the different variables that can affect that. So coming into the home is also different than the clinical setting, where we can see and have a lot more direct contact with all the different aspects of their lives. So where in the clinical setting, a kiddo can go and it's a different environment, but then they go home and it might not be as supportive as what they need to really benefit from the therapy. So if we can go in and support families in understanding and knowing what they need, help them access those resources, develop advocacy skills, and empower them to access those on their own, it's hugely impactful.
So when you talk about advocacy skills, like some of the ones I think of first are a lot of parents really struggle like with IEPs.
Yes.
Yes.
And they feel very alone when you walk into a table full of professionals and the parents by themselves, and they really don't understand the process that much, or the language, or what's reasonable to ask. So how potentially would you help a parent who was walking into either just starting the process with IEPs, or they've been really having some rough times working with the schools around IEP issues?
IPO Idaho is an amazing resource for parents. It's Idaho Parents Unlimited program. Mm-hmm. They will step in and basically take the parent by the hand and help them understand the whole process, and they'll be with them to advocate during the actual 504 IEP meeting.
Okay. So a lot of it is your connection of knowing what the resources are in the community, so
Correct.
you can directly put them in touch with those that are most knowledgeable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if there's something that is out of our scope of knowledge, we find those resources also. So we don't know everything. There's a lot to know, but we do have the resourceful nature to be able to help others find that information out themselves too.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm kind of stalling you on these.
Okay. Okay. So, who would be family support services are not CBRS services? Who would be qualifying for CBRS services versus family support? So CBRS is a piece of that pie. It is not the same as family support. They can happen at the same time. So this is CBRS services is the service that was mostly utilized by a lot of families. Jill, can you tell us the difference between CBRS and family support partner?
CBRS focuses on the individual child and their learning coping skills, or it's skills training for just the individual. But then when you're done working with that child for the day, they go back home into the same environment. As a family support, you're working with not only the child, but the family as a whole. And you're not doing the coping skills piece, none of the clinical pieces that are involved with CBRS.
Right, it's much more open as far as supporting the family dynamic and all of those individuals, not just the kiddo. So that's the big difference between the two services. Where CBRS is definitely needed if there is a member that has to really work on some skills for themselves to be able to effectively be involved in school and manage their behavior at home, utilize therapy in an effective way. Those are really important skills to have. And then family support will come in and help support the family in the kiddo's recovery from CBRS and mental health diagnoses or any behavioral health issues that might happen, and understanding what those pieces are. So again, it bridges that gap between services. Do you have any questions?
So Jill, in that you previously provided CBRS services, so you kind of have done both sides of the fence.
Correct.
So can you talk at all in terms of not the difference in services, but maybe how it impacts the family and helps them move forward in the effectiveness of working towards recovery with a child that has a mental health diagnosis?
On the family support side, the impact I've seen is much greater. Part of what I do as family support is help educate not only the parents but siblings about the different mental health disorders that they're dealing with, or developmental disorders. Just having an educational understanding of what the other child is going through has been very beneficial. Also helping the family to create like daily schedules or daily routine. A lot of them didn't have that, and they didn't understand how important that is.
Okay, so as a new service, it really does seem to be making an impact on
very much so.
Helping the individual child, but also helping the entire family in terms of how they're functioning, how they're understanding, how to support the child and the family.
And it's having a lasting impact. They'll be able to take this with them throughout the rest of their life. It's not just a here and now.
Absolutely. So family support when you're effectively helping the family make positive changes, like you said, it crosses that lifespan to where it can also be viewed as a preventative mental health measure for children. As they grow older, they're going to develop better coping skills. They're going to have better resiliency skills when they are faced with challenges in the future. They can also learn how to become resourceful and make better decisions and problem solve, and know that they have a stable foundation to kind of grow and blossom and grow from. It can also be preventative for substance use disorders later on in life. It can prevent hospitalizations later on in life. More in depth. It doesn't just right here, right now. It is really important for right here, right now, but it does have a far-reaching ripple effect of evidence-based wonderful outcomes.
And building resiliency
Resiliency
within the
is huge.
family.
Within the family.
Within the
That's been
family,
huge.
yes, because all of those aspects of the family members they affect the kiddos. So when we go into a family's home, sometimes we see where mom and dad might be struggling in some areas, so we can also help them kind of navigate their own services too, and then that creates a hugely supportive environment for the child to grow in. That's really important.
And I guess what I hear you saying, and I really like, is that this is not a service that has to be with the family forever because they can't do without you all.
Right.
But the goal really is to be able to teach them so that they learn new skills, coping skills, strategies, and they're able to take it on their own, and that you all are there for just a period of time, what the family needs, but with the idea of building those skills.
Yes.
And then being able to remove yourself.
Yes, we're not doing it for them, we're doing it with them to empower them to build all those skills so that they know if they're faced with any challenges in the future that they can handle it on their own. And we're also available, so if they are going through anything in the future and they need to touch base, they
still
can. We're still there. It's not a required service too. This is all by member choice. So it's they want it. They are creating their own goals. They're creating their own steps, and we are supporting them to work through those challenges.
It's exciting. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, wonderful. So who can be a certified family support partner? So to become a certified family support partner, you have to be at least 18 years of age and able to legally work in the United States. You have to have at least a high school diploma or a GED at a minimum, have lived experience as a parent or an adult caregiver who is raising or has raised a child who lives with behavioral health a disorder diagnosis, and has successfully navigated the various systems of care. So that is the lived experience piece. Having completed a recognized Idaho Family Support Partner training. So that is really going to be offered a lot more late in the future.
They can find usually a list of classes offered on Department of Health and Welfare's website.
Yes, you can always
They will
refer
talk about
to
upcoming trainings.
Absolutely, you can always refer to the Division of Behavioral Health at their website. And then following the training, you must complete the requirement for hours worked depending on your education, have completed the required hours of supervision, one-on-one clinical supervision in an agency, and have submitted an application for certification. So now that we covered all the basics, how do you become a CFSP and go through the certification process? So we already touched on you have to be a parent or caregiver that successfully completed an approved family support partner training.
So I'm going to jump in with a question.
Okay.
So when they need to be a parent of a child that has some mental health. So do you find many parents, is it that once your child is grown and left the home, or is it parents that are still in kind of the trenches and dealing with the challenges of navigating systems and learning new strategies and working with the children? Can you do both? Can you
Yes.
be raising your own
You can
kids
do both.
and be a family support partner at the same time?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely, you can. That's the evidence of what you've already done in your own personal story and how successful you have been. So there's a lot of considerations when you're talking about who is a qualified family support partner. So if you have a consistent ability to kind of navigate all those things, you understand everything, you have to be well-spoken and have a good work ethic. And there are also like boundaries and being able to be a team player, be able to work with youth and family members and behavioral health professionals effectively. So excellent, strong communication skills is really important. Have a sense of humor too. I mean, it's not super clinical, like they said, this is a supportive service. So you have to have a sense of humor, some flexibility, ability to take constructive criticism as well. So you have to be healthy in your own lives and have a certain level of resiliency skills that it's evident, to be a good role model. Good time management, understand and respect various cultures and family differences as well, because everybody is different. Every family looks different. Every culture has their own traits. So be able to be knowledgeable, tolerant, accepting, open-minded, and helpful, and just have a helpful demeanor and sense of purpose.
That's a pretty long list in terms of skills to be, an effective. And a lot of those are just personal skills. These aren't necessarily things that you learn in a classroom. It's more about interaction. And like you said, your own sense of resiliency and resourcefulness.
Right.
So based on the experience of a parent.
Yes, exactly. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was a pretty comprehensive list.
What do you see as if we're working with families in the home? What are some skills that you've utilized to be effective with people?
Skills that I've taught,
or skills that you have to be effective when you're working with individuals and families.
Organizational skills are really important, and I tend to be very organized. I leave myself lots of notes. I still set goals for myself with timelines.
Yeah, so the nature of becoming a certified family support partner is you're also mobile. So you're going to families' homes, and you're going to IEP meetings, you're going to places with them. You're often traveling in your car. You're not in an office for 9 to 5. So the nature of it is different. So that's where the time management and organizational piece has to come in to be effective and be a strong employee and be a strong supportive service partner.
And Jill, from what I know of you, I mean, you just have a sense of calmness. So I think sometimes walking into chaos, I think a parent who is really challenged and struggling and doesn't know where to go for help and developing the resources, I just think your presence coming in kind of will kind of ratchet that down a little bit. And I think that's an important skill that a family support partner has, is just to be able to walk into some pretty chaotic situations, be able to assess what's going on, and be able to provide that parent that sense of, we got this. Together we can do this. We're going to walk through the steps, get a little more organized, figure out what needs to be done, where are the resources. And that's huge. Because so often, when you are just in a sense of, if you're in crisis or just in chaos, it's hard to be organized.
Yes.
It can.
It can be very difficult.
Everything can be very overwhelming when you're in that state of chaos and confusion. And so when you have somebody to come in and has already been there and understands what it is, and it's not overwhelming for them, it's an objective point of view, and you become the supportive presence in their lives.
Because it's much easier on the outside looking in.
Yes.
When you're in the middle of the crisis, it doesn't seem like there's a way out. But when you have somebody standing there, we can do this.
Yes, absolutely. It can bring a sense of clarity, a perspective. That's a huge thing, is what I share with people is my perspective, my personal experience, some of the things that have worked for me, what I know has worked for others, suggestions, problem solving, brainstorming. That's a huge piece. We do that a lot with individuals and families, for sure. Yeah.
So I really see you all kind of just expanding the box for parents.
Yes.
Because often you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So the idea that you are bringing ideas, resources to them to to help them start asking the questions of what else is out there, or how do I handle something differently? What other skills can I bring in terms of my parenting and organization within the household? So as they start to expand, they really start to be able to handle things more on their own. So that's part of your, like, giving them the skills, adding more tools to their toolbox,
Right.
and then kind of starting to be able to step away.
Yes.
And again, I just think for a parent who's doing the best they can, and I mean, they're pedaling that bicycle as fast as they can, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, all of a sudden to have someone standing next to them that says, I understand this. It may not be identical to your story, but I get it. I get that sense of helplessness,
Right.
confusion, chaos, feeling defeated, feeling blamed, and be like, no, I've been there too. And I can't do it for you, which I think is a really
Right.
important point that you made, but I can do it with you.
Right.
And as
Correct.
we're doing it, we're putting more things, we're developing a stronger toolbox that
Yes.
eventually you're going to walk away with on your own.
Yeah,
Exact- yes.
Validating the parents can be really powerful,
Right.
because a lot of times they're not validated anywhere else in their life. So someone's saying, I understand, I feel your pain.
Yeah, so I mean, so often the parents that we're working with feel blamed.
Yes.
Be it by school systems, by other family members, by the community they go out into. So there's definitely that sense of they're very guarded. They often feel very defeated, and they feel like the finger's generally pointing at them. So
Yeah.
for you all to come in and be like, you know what? I recognize that you're doing the
okay.
best you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep moving forward. That's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Just to come with that message of it's okay. And it can be an extremely isolating experience when you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do and you're trying things and maybe it's not working out. It's not enabling them because we're not doing things for them, but it's empowering them because we're doing things with them and teaching them how to do things on their own. So that's the lasting effect that family support partner has for people. Do you have anything to add for that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So let's go to the next slide. I believe we're just going to continue talking about certification process. So I just wanted to touch how this process kind of goes. We'll go through these slides kind of quickly. So the certification process, after you do your training and you do the initial application for certified family support partner, then when your application is complete, the certified family support receives the certification in the mail from Department of Behavioral Health that is valid for 6 months. In that initial 6-month certification, they're giving you 6 months to gain work experience and to gain supervision, to see if this is, this is kind of an introductory period, to see if this is the service that you really want to commit to and that you want to do for and pursue a yearly certification. So Department of Health and Welfare has up to 30 days to complete the certification process and mail out the certificate. And that means that the family support partner may have to wait up to 1 month to provide family support after completing the application for certification. But while you're waiting to receive your application in the mail, you can be interviewing for jobs, you can be doing on-the-job orientation, and the family support cannot bill at this time for family support, but they provide until after they have received proof of certification for Department of Health and Welfare.
So for someone who's been through the training, because the parent decides, yes, this is something I'm really excited about, they find out there's a training in their area, they jump into the 40-hour training, how hard is it to find a job after that? Are agencies looking for family support partners, or is it
Absolutely.
pretty competitive and you can't get into the
The
field?
need right now for family support.
Pardon me?
The need right now for family support partners is huge. I don't know an agency that's not actively seeking
Okay.
new providers.
And it's still growing. So
Yes.
right now there's a great need right now at this time, and then it's only going to get bigger. So we really need quality family support partners in the field that are dedicated to the service, that are strong, and could be excellent role models and advocate for families, for themselves, and for the system, for our kiddos. So we want to live and work in a wonderful system, and to be directly involved in that is a hugely rewarding experience.
So is it unreasonable to think that there might be opportunities because there's a fee that goes along with it. and it can be expensive. That can be one of the obstacles for parents getting into it. Is it possible to be able to discuss with an agency in advance that you would like to be trained and come work for them? And are agencies paying any of the training fees to get people trained?
There are. It depends on the agency. It depends on the situation with the individual that wants to do training, but it is definitely an opportunity to, and it does not hurt to ask either. So if somebody approaches you and you want to talk about it, it's completely open. It is a huge supportive field. It's very common for trainings to be provided from the employer, from the agency.
Okay. So that's a good question to ask. It does not hurt to ask if you know a provider that you have a relationship with, to be able to say you're really interested in going into the field, and would they consider providing the cost of training for you to come work with them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is definitely a possibility. Yes. So we can move on to the next slide here.
Maybe.
It's not going. My
always
clicker.
technical
Okay,
challenges.
there it
There
is.
you go.
My clicker was not working. Okay. So after you receive your 6-month certification, the family support partner is now a certified family support partner. So the CFSP can use the next 6 months to accrue 100 hours of work and/or volunteer experience if they hold a bachelor's degree. So that's really important. In a human services field. So a bachelor's degree in a human services field would be like a bachelor's, social work. What are some other? Counseling, absolutely. So any of the health and human services fields, if you hold a bachelor's degree, then you only would have to work 100 hours of experience, work or volunteer experience. If you have a GED or a high school diploma, then you are required to do 200 hours of work or volunteer experience, and that's very doable. It's not a unreasonable request. It's actually very attainable. So, can you give any examples of what work and or volunteer experience might be? So, working within an agency or volunteering.
I only know the side from working within an agency.
Okay.
But it was really easy. When I started out, I worked maybe 12 hours a week in family support, and the other hours were spent doing other aspects of my...
Of your position? Okay.
Yes. But it was very easy to make sure I got all the hours I needed.
Okay.
And I think you addressed this previously, but as you were working on those hours, those are paid hours if you're with an agency.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so once you complete the training, get your certification, even though you're under that kind of temporary status, you're still being paid during that.
Yes, you can definitely get paid and be billed for that. Of course, volunteer is volunteer. That is not paid experience, but it can be extremely valuable as well. So there might not be an entity that can be set up for billing, but you want to work with them. So you have a passion for working with women that have gone through some kind of domestic violence background. So there are shelters and nonprofit organizations that would welcome you to come in and work with families, and you can gain some extremely knowledgeable experience in that process too. Okay, let's continue on to the next slide.
That's a good idea.
So supervision, this is the one-on-one. As you're going through your initial 6-month certification, you have to receive 20 hours of one-on-one supervision by a degreed professional in a human services field who holds a supervisory capacity at their organization. This is really important. So you're having a lot of direction, mentorship, guidance, feedback, constructive criticism. You can explain situations to them and they can give some clarification for you on how to navigate those maybe some tough situations that coming into the field, newly certified, newly trained. It can be overwhelming sometimes and you might not really be prepared. So having a strong supervision is extremely important.
So it's scheduled that you have supervision one-on-one.
Yes.
Correct.
But what happens if in between those sessions you hit a problem that you're not sure how to handle? who do you talk to?
So within the agency, hopefully they would have, and ideally they would have a structure set up. So if you had something immediate that was a crisis, they would have policies and procedures in place at the agency. And that is an excellent question too. As you're going through and you're doing interviews and you're kind of looking to see where you want to go and work, have those questions readily available. How does this work for supervision for me? If a situation arises that I don't know what to do, what does that look like? And ideally, when you're going to an agency that has training, you're going to be doing the training before you're actually working with individuals. That will be part of their policies and procedures for sure.
So I think one of the advantages that people that are getting trained now and going out into the field is that they really can pick and choose in terms of who their potential employers are going to be.
Absolutely.
So I really think, emphasizing what you said is to make sure that the agency has the support for a family support partner that's needed, that they have someone who is knowledgeable about what the services are and how to provide supervision for them, and that they're working as part of a team and not in isolation.
Yes.
So at this point in time, you can approach several agencies and make sure you have a list of the things that are most important to you. And if you're not sure what those are, I would suggest contacting an agency that currently has a family support partner, because I think they're very willing. They so badly want more people in the field that they would spend time with you and say, ask this, and this. These are the important things. As we came into an agency that supported us, or what we felt like that we needed that we didn't get.
Absolutely. I love that. That was so well spoken. So yes, you can be your own advocate. You can absolutely explain what you need, what your expectations are for your agency, and don't be afraid to speak up and say what doesn't work. So if you see something and you have a negative experience in the field, absolutely speak up for it. Advocate for your families in that aspect too. So this is a growing field. This is a hugely beneficial resource, and we have a responsibility to ensure that it's implemented in a respectable fashion with integrity and strength. So I think that's really important, to be able to speak for yourself, advocate for your needs when you're working with an employer, and in turn it advocates for your families too. Yes. Do you have anything to add to that?
One of the pieces of maintaining your certification is continuing education.
Absolutely.
So another good question to ask is, does the agency itself offer any continuing education?
Absolutely. So yes, thank you for speaking on that. So continuing education units or CEUs are required after you get your yearly certification. You're required to do 10 CEU hours a year. And a lot of agencies will have that in-house. But some might not, and there are some great resources out there that you can access wonderful CEUs opportunities, so that beyond the initial 40-hour training, you might have a lot more questions. You might be really excited also and be inspired. I want to know more about this, and I need more clarification on that. So I would just suggest, to reach out to Optum Idaho has Relias online. Empower Idaho also has a lot of CEU resources there. There are so many available that you can really kind of tailor your own skills, your own knowledge base, continue building that resource listing that you have, and for your families and for your own services. So yes, that's an exciting piece too, that agencies are offering more CEUs, but you can also go on and do it on your own.
Yeah, they do not have to be face-to-face.
They don't have to be face-to-face. The majority that I have come across is actually online. And there's a lot of free CEUs available too. There's a lot of quality CEUs that you can go and you can do 1, 2, 3 day trainings. Some of those have fees, but there are opportunities for free as well. So if that is a hindrance, that is still available. So don't let that deter you either. That this is a very capable field. It's supportive, it's attainable, and you can keep your certification. It is not difficult to maintain. Just want to let people know that. So some people might be intimidated. If I become a certified family support partner, what does it take to maintain that? Can I do this? And maybe you have kids at home, and how do I navigate all of this and still take care of my kids? And there's a transition, that you might need as you're coming into the workforce if you haven't been in it in a while, or if you're transitioning into family support from something else. This is a very supportive field for you as well. So it is maintainable.
So to me, that's a really important point that I kind of want to emphasize, because as we're reaching out into the community, looking for parents to come in and, many who have not, you said, been working for a while, how do you find that balance? Because I think that would be one of the things that I would think first is there's no way I can manage the house, manage this job, work with other families. How do you work on that balance?
So everybody's life is different, right? And having your own support system, having that already in place for you is really beneficial. Being self-aware and knowing where your limitations are, for sure. And also when you're talking about supervision and talking about employers, how are they supporting you in that? Mm-hmm. So say I can only work 20 hours a week. I can only work part-time, not full-time. Does your employer support that? If you have certain challenges that you need some more guidance with, are they going to support you in finding those resources too? So if you need to take some time off, also, are they going to allow you to do that? So the flexible nature of this field and how employers are going to be supportive for you is also going to maintain how effective it is for the families. So in order to be an effective family support partner, you have to work for an effective team. You have to work for an effective employer and request that of them. And if you don't find it, you can keep looking. Okay. Yes, be your own advocate in this growing field, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Great point.
Do you know what the wage range is currently?
So that is variable. I have seen anywhere from $12 to $17, $19 an hour, depending on experience, depending on education level, and that's for starting. And then, so it is a livable wage. It depends on your flexibility. There's a lot of family support partners and supportive services professionals that do this part-time. And they might have families at home, or they do this in addition to another job. So there's such variability out there. You need to figure out what works for you, for sure. So keep asking questions. Interview other employers as they're interviewing you too. Figure out what is going to work for you. Because if you're healthy, then the families that you can help are going to benefit from that too.
Great.
Yes, thank you. So let's continue on with the PowerPoint here. So we crossed supervision. So if you do not attain your hours needed, you can apply for an extension through the Peer Certification Committee. They are absolutely knowledgeable and supportive and understanding of all the different nuances. So if you need an extension, do not be afraid to ask. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. So once it's completed, the Certified Family Support Partner, you submit your record of your hours or volunteer experience needed and the 20 hours of supervision to Department of Behavioral Health. So you need more than one if you've done it for more than one place. That's okay. So here I listed just a couple of different volunteer opportunities. So community centers, shelters, and nonprofit organizations. We have some amazing community centers in our areas, be extremely grateful of that as well. So don't negate the option of volunteering versus working because it can be extremely rewarding experience for you. So once your certification is done and everything is submitted, you will be granted a full certification for 1 year and celebrate that success because that's amazing. So having those little successes in our own lives is also going to be impactful and empowering that nature for our families too. So can you say anything about that? What did it feel like when you got your first certification?
Oh, it was very exciting. I couldn't wait to get started.
Right.
So that I could start helping other families.
Yes. So after this, it's really just the maintaining. Once you are given your yearly certification, then you are doing your CEUs. And you're continuing to work with families and you're building those relationships. And hopefully by then you'll be able to navigate how it works for you in your life and in your family and all of those little nuances and to be supportive for yourself. Okay, let's continue on for the PowerPoint. So you need to also What happened?
Let's keep going.
Okay. So the certification process is continued. After your CEUs are completed, and you need to keep track of that. So they are not going to send you reminders. You need to know when your certification is up, and I would recommend submitting your yearly certification renewal at least 30 to 45 days before it's expired, so they have time to process that and there's no lapse in your certification. So at this time, if there's any other questions regarding the certification process, I would direct you to the Peer and Family Support Specialist Certification Committee at the Department of Health and Welfare. The number is on the screen, and please write that down. There's also the email. You can email them with any questions that you have regarding the certification process. So I hope that people would be inspired enough to just investigate and find different training opportunities. You can also look at the Department of Health and Welfare's website for training entities and scheduled trainings that are coming up in the near future. They will always be maintaining a list at this time. The Department of Health and Welfare is the one-stop place to find all of that info.
Mm-hmm. And they have a great kind of link on there that's questions of the Q&A, questions and answers. And a lot of those are the ones I think that typically that most people are going to have about, you know, who qualifies, how do you get this done, who are the contacts. So that's a really good place to go to. And again, like you said, it's kind of a one-stop shop. They give detailed information about the certification process and who's eligible. And so, any other things that we touched on here, but you're like, what was that she said? I am sure that if you go to that site, you will find that information there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I encourage you to look into your opportunities, ask more questions, reach out to the Department of Health and Welfare, reach out to the Federation of Families, reach out to iPool, talk to other family support partners in your area, and see if this is something that you would like to get into, if you would like to start this process. This is an extremely rewarding field and rewarding career that you can develop, and it also supports you as your family if you have kiddos at home. So it's not without reason to go and try to help others while you're also helping your families and your kiddos at home.
Mm-hmm. So if someone was like, I think I want to do that, but I'm not really sure, and I'd love to talk to someone who's doing it now. If they contacted the Federation, would you be okay if I connected someone who was interested to really talk directly with someone who is in the field? Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I am willing to speak to people, and Jill is amazing. She's so helpful and supportive, and she's been trained for a year longer than I have, but there's a lot of very supportive individuals in family support.
So definitely, give the Federation a call, ask for Carol Dixon, and I would be happy to make that connection for you with someone who's actually working in the field. So I guess one of my questions for you is, what are you enjoying about this job? What do you like about this? What is it that keeps you going to work every day?
Seeing the successes of the family, seeing the small changes, the moment that kiddos or family members, like the parents, they kind of get it, kind of see, oh, there's a shift, like there is possible, like to make things different, to make positive changes in my life, and to have hope. That's a rewarding experience to see that. And when they're excited about something, I love it when families come back to me and they're like, look what I did, and then I went ahead and I did this too, and this is going on, and they have good things to report, and not just, there's a lot of other things that we always got to work on. There's always going to be challenges, but to see those little moments of positive energy coming out of them is that's really awesome. To be able to see kiddos just relax and blossom and grow and be able to overcome things in their school and their home and look for the future and think about making independent decisions and plans for their lives, like seeing that growth is the most rewarding part for me.
How about for you, Jill? Anything different in terms of...
I've actually been able to graduate a couple of families and being able to say goodbye to them because they've got it.
Okay.
They're living a healthy life.
What might they be doing
now.
differently when you say they got it? What's the it? What is it that you're like, okay, a family's ready to take off the training wheels in terms of the support that we've been offering them and set them loose? What are they doing differently?
With one family in particular, biggest issue was daily routine. They had none. So helping them develop that was the foundation of, we had to get that in place first. And then they were able to start working on other things.
Okay.
But with chaos in the household, because there was no routine, that was huge.
Yeah.
So that was like their first step.
Yeah.
And from there, the other things started falling into place. We've got this. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody knows what's coming next. So now we can tackle this.
Yes, absolutely. And then you can look at the bigger picture. So IEP meetings, accessing maybe a child that would qualify for DD services, developmental disability services. How do you go that process? What do you do? Those forms, and who do you talk to, and all those things. So you see all these building blocks happen, and then their lives are changing, and they're excited, and they're doing things on their own. And they kind of go off, and seeing those positive changes are huge.
So jumping back to a family that you're walking into where you recognize pretty quickly, ooh, there's a lot of chaos, there's not a lot of structure, a lot of organization. Are you the one that says, okay, you know what, the first thing we need to tackle is kind of bring in a little bit of organization to the family? Are you the one that's like deciding what the primary goal is?
Oh, no, that's, they write their own plan, just with some assistance from you. It's up to the family to identify what are our barriers, what are we struggling with.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. This is a member-directed service, so they are going to determine what their goals are. What does health and wellness look like for them, for their family? How does this support the kiddo? What are those goals needed? So they are able to identify them, and then with us helping them figure out how to make that happen. Really, how do you do that? What does that look like? What are the steps there? So through different problem-solving skills that we can do, looking at priority of needs, and maybe doing a little like motivational interviewing with them. That's another wonderful CEU opportunity. I encourage anybody that's a family support partner to go and do a motivational interviewing training online or in person.
So quick definition, what is motivational interviewing? For somebody who hasn't heard that term before,
right.
What is it and why is it effective?
So motivational interviewing is a conversational style that asks questions to incite like a collaborative insight change, yes, and to have self-reflective questions. So when you're asking them certain things in a way that they are going to be able to work through your process and come to the conclusion on their own. So it's motivational questioning, basically, motivational interviewing. And for them to be able, for them to get to the place where they're being able to identify goals on their own and actually come to realizations of, well, maybe this is a problem, or maybe this over here is a priority. That is where the most effective change happens, to where it's not somebody saying, this is what's wrong, this is what you need to do. It's a process of realization that they come to their own conclusions of, this is what is wrong, and this is what I need to do.
Yeah, and that's nice, and that's different than an assessment where somebody's checking boxes and then says, oh, these are the things that we need to work on.
Right.
So very driven by the family. And I would think there's more success when the family is identifying what they want to work on.
Absolutely. And that's a huge functional difference between the clinical role of therapy and then the supportive role of family support partner.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's actively engaging the families and the kiddos to figure out how they can take control and ownership and responsibility of their lives, and they can make those decisions for goals, and they can make those changes. And we just help them figure that out. We just help them understand what that looks like for them, and then create those steps and that processes, and to kind of like take that skill and then be able to apply it to other areas of their lives, and look at different pieces of the pie and bridge the gap and have collaborative relationships. That's what makes this such a impactful evidence-based service.
And I think, like you said, it's not meant to be a standalone service. It's meant to be in conjunction with a variety of other services.
Yes.
And it's all of those kind of services working together to help the family move forward.
Yes.
And then as they no longer need, different things are kind of withdrawn until the family, using their own natural supports, often is able to go on. without that
Absolutely.
whole collaborative effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and very individual to the family. There's not a rigid, this is how long this will last, this is how long this will last, but more in terms of what are the goals for the family, how are they doing, how long do they need this, and then being able to withdraw them as they're
Yes,
successfully.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's exciting. I think there are a lot of families who have benefited from this, a lot of families who would love the service to be in their area. At this point in time, it's pretty spotty in terms of where it's available, but I know there is an emphasis on bringing more people in, providing additional training, getting more folks certified. I think, like you mentioned earlier, Jill, there's a lot of providers out there that would really like to hire
Yes.
parents to come in and be involved in this. So I think as we go forward, I know with the YES project, the Youth Empowerment Services, the Family Support Partner is going to be an important part of that team for when they develop what's going to be called the Child Family Team, and then for the families who are involved in wraparound, really having a Family Support Partner working with them through that process as one of the team members will be key. So
Yes.
there was one question we received, and I wanted to answer that real quick. We had a parent that asked about their child not being able to get, excuse me, assessment for dyslexia in school, and how possibly they might be able to access that service. And I would jump back to the original suggestion of contacting IPUL, Idaho Parents
Yes.
Unlimited,
Yes.
because they do work specifically with families with kids who are having learning disabilities, and they should have some really great insight and information on how you can get that process started, because that's definitely important if you feel like there is an issue with a learning disability, particularly with dyslexia.
Yes.
School needs to take that seriously, so how do you get moving? So
They have
again,
sample letters too that parents can use, download and fill in the blanks on how to access the resources. You know, a letter that would be addressed to the school
Right.
of this is what I'm requesting you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, that's Idaho Parents Unlimited. You could Google that, and their number will pop up, and they're very responsive. So, ladies, thank you for joining us. I feel like this is really great information. Again, twofold for those parents who might really feel like they could benefit by having the service in their home, and also those parents that are like, ooh, there's an opportunity. I would like to step out and be able to do something that really is satisfying, fulfilling, and it's making a difference in other people's lives. And I think particularly sometimes when you're struggling and you've got things going on at home and you're doing the best you can, sometimes it really helps to get outside and do something else and use all that experience to help another family be able
absolutely.
to, for that. It can be very rewarding.
Yes.
So we look forward to seeing it like expand and build. And I hope as we, you'll come back, that we can go a little bit deeper in certain aspects of family support in the future, and that you'll join us again. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us today.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you will go out and try to find information. And if you need any help or want to connect with another family support partner, feel free to contact the Federation.
Yeah,
And thank
we'll be
you.
doing- So just for next month, real quick, I want to let you know that we have someone from the YES Project that's going to be coming in to discuss what are the changes that are coming up in January. There's some really key things that are happening with the project. So they're going to be talking about what to expect in January, kind of where the project is, what services are rolling out, the eligibility question. There's some things with Medicaid that are exciting. So tune in January. Can't tell you the date off the top of my head, but it will be on our website, and we'll be sending information out. So I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays. There's a lot going on. It's a busy time of year. It can be a stressful time of year, so remember some of those self-care methods that you need to kind of bring it down a little bit, and we'll see you again in January. Thank you much.
Thank you.